Hello everyone. So today we're gonna solve Cambridge IGCSE 062021 May June 2024. So let's get started. First question: a gas is heated, the pressure is kept constant. Which statement describes the behavior of the particles in the gas? So we know that when the gas is being heated, the temperature will rise. So let's see the options. The particles move faster and become closer together. No, that's incorrect. The particles move faster and become further apart. Yes, which is correct. The particles move more slowly. No, it doesn't move slowly. The kinetic energy becomes faster, so the particles are more faster to move. The particles move more slowly and become further apart, which is also incorrect. So the correct option is B. A mixture of ice and water is left to stand and the ice melts, which also indicates it's a melting process, which describes what happens as the ice is melting. So over here they have given us temperature of the mixture and energy change. So as you all know that the temperature remains same, so we can write stays the same. So we have two options here, C and D. Let's see for the energy change. Average kinetic energy of particle decreases. No, it doesn't actually. And energy is used to overcome the attractive forces. Yes. So the final answer is D. Question 3. Hydrogen chloride gas, which molar mass is given as 36.5, is released at P in the apparatus shown. The universal indicator paper turns red. That means it shows as indicator as acidic in nature, which is 38 seconds. Over here, there is a universal indicator paper, which we have. The experiment is repeated using sulfur dioxide gas, which we have as a molar mass as 64. And as you all know that sulfur dioxide is again an acidic oxide. What is the result for sulfur dioxide gas? So if you would see here, universal indicator paper turns red. So we have two options here. A and B gets cancelled directly. So we can eliminate whenever we see a direct answer. Now, time for universal indicator paper to change color. So over here we have two option given, 26 and 51. So we should know that whenever we want to find about the diffusion, so rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to the molar mass. So if the molar mass is high, the rate of diffusion becomes lower. And if the molar mass is low, rate of diffusion becomes higher. So over here, if you would see, when you talk about sulfur dioxide and HCl, sulfur dioxide is having molar mass greater than the HCl. The reason being sulfur dioxide is 64 and HCl is 64 and HCl is 36.5. So more the mass, less the rate of diffusion. So the answer is D. It takes more time. Question 4. Four statements about atoms are listed. So the center of an atom is positively charged, which is correct. Protons and electrons are located in the nucleus, which is incorrect. It's a neutron. Protons and electrons have the same mass. No. Most of the mass of an atom is in the nucleus, which is correct. So answer of 1 and 4 is the correct answer, which is B. The electronic configurations of two elements are given, which is element L and element M. We need to find the group number and period number. So first of all, we must know about the group number and period number. Okay. So I have written here, group number indicates the number of electron in the outermost shell. Okay. So if you have any atom, so outermost shell, we will count how many outermost shell electrons are present for group number. And when we talk about period, we always count the number of shells which is present in any atom. So let's see for the element L. As you can see, if I talk about group number, so I'll see the outermost shell which is 1. So 1 is over here in A and B. Now let's check for period number, which talks about 2881, which comes under 4, period number 4. So we have both is the answer. So let's check for element M. Now if you would see element M is 4 electrons in the outermost shell, that means 4 group number, which is first and D. Now let's see for period number, which is number of shell 1, 2, 3. So this indicates as third, because as element L is also the first one is correct, so element M will also be correct. So the answer is A. The next question, which statement explain why isotope of the same element have the same chemical properties? So we all know that isotopes will have a same electronic number and electronic configuration. Seventh question, which statements about potassium chloride are correct? It conducts the electricity when solid because its ion are free to move. No, when it's solid, it will not conduct ions which is free to move. It has high melting point because it has a strong intermolecular forces. No, because it's an ionic bond. It structures a giant lattice of alternating positive and negative ions, which is correct. And it is soluble in water, which is also correct. So third and fourth is the correct option. So the correct option is D. Next question, A. How many electrons are shared in one molecule of nitrogen and one molecule of ethene? So as you can see, it is given as one molecule of nitrogen. Okay. So whenever there is a one molecule of nitrogen, you need to write N2 because they are only talking about the molecule, and we must know that the nitrogen structure comes as a triple bond. You cannot just write double bond like this. So it's a triple bond, and we need to see how many electrons are shared in one molecule of nitrogen. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer is 6 for nitrogen, which is C and D. Now let's check for ethene. So ethene is C double bond C, as it is an alkene group. All right. So if you would see, count from CH bond and C double bond. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So total 12 electrons have been shared, which is correct. So the answer is C. What is the total number of electrons in one molecule of ammonia, which is NH3? Now, over here, we need to understand the ammonia structure. For that reason, I have made a structure for you. So over here, if you would see, nitrogen structure is there. Along with nitrogen, we have lone pair, one lone pair, and 3 hydrogen bonds. As you know that nitrogen having a atomic number as 7, and we're going to have electronic configuration as 2, 5. So 5 bond being shared, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And along with that, we're going to have hydrogen, 3 hydrogen carrying 1 electron each. So if I talk about sharing between nitrogen and hydrogen, there are 2 electrons each in each covalent bond. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Right. So we have total 8, but over here they're asking us about the bonds, total bonds. So we have total 4 bonds with 2 electrons, which is, we're going to take the lone pair as well. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, which gives me 2 electron multiplied by 4. Okay. But there is also one thing which says this is the outermost shell. When we talk about the diagram, it's outermost shell we are counting. The inner shell also, because it's 2, 5. So we have taken from 5, and from the inside we take more 2. So it's going to be plus 2 electron of inner shell, which gives me around as answer as 10. 2 4s are 8 plus 2, 10 electron. Okay, so there's a one way to do it, or else you can do as this. Nitrogen, we have total 7 electron, along with hydrogen is atomic number 1. So 7 plus how many hydrogen? 3 hydrogen. Directly you can get the answer. So there is 2 option. So there's total actually 2. There are 2 options. So there is 1 and 2. So you can take any option which is suitable for you, and the correct answer is 10. Question 10. When heated, copper oxide reacts with ammonia. Okay. And they are asking us 8.5 gram of ammonia reacts with an excess of copper 2 oxide to produce 26.4 gram of copper. What is the percentage yield of copper in this reaction? So as you can see over here, we have got ammonia as 8.5 gram, which is reacted and given us as 26.4 gram of copper. So we need to find the percentage L. So for that reason, we need to have the mass of a copper, which we do not know actually. So let's get started for knowing what exactly we can do. So the information which is given to us is ammonia and copper. So we can first start with the mole. So finding out the mole, we have mass upon molar mass. So if you would see here, it's NH3, which is ammonia, is giving as 8.5 mass divided by molar mass is 17 if you calculate, and you get answer as mole 0.5. So 0.5, okay, and we do have the mole ratio of 2 to 2 raised to 3, so which we can do like this. Ammonia raised to copper, which gives me 2 ratio 3, and for ammonia we have got 0.5. So for copper will be how much? We can do unitary method. So with the unitary method we can able to get as x as a value of 0.75, and with 0.75 mole we can get the mass of copper, and we got a molar mass of 64, and we can get the answer. We can do multiplication of this. We can get mass of copper as 48 gram, and then percentage yield. For that reason we will write 26.4 because it has actually produced. Okay, so 26.4 divide by 48, which we have got, multiply by 100, we get 55%. So the correct answer is C. What is the empirical formula of ethanoic acid? So first we must know about the ethanoic acid. The structure of the ethanoic acid: methane, it means 2 carbon atom. So ethanoic acid, first we write the carbon and then we write the functional group. So this is my ethanoic acid. Okay, now over here we need to count how many carbon, hydrogen and oxygens are there. So over here if you can see 1, 2 carbon. So hydrogen would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and oxygen is 2. So we can reduce this to the simplest ratio, and I'm going to get a C2. Oh, you will divide everything by 2 for the simplest ratio, because empirical formula means simplest ratio of the molecular formula, and you get the answer as CH2O. Next question. 12th question. Magnesium chloride contains magnesium ions and chloride ions. How many chloride ions are present in 2 moles of magnesium chloride? So first of all, when I talk about 2 moles, we must know about 1 mole. So 1 mole of magnesium chloride or 1 mole of any compound will contain Avogadro's constant, which is the value of 6.02 into 10 raised to 23. So for 2 mole, it will be 2 multiplied by 6.02 into 10 raised to 23. But they are asking chloride ions. How many chloride ions are? So as you can see, magnesium chloride. Now chloride is how much? 2, right? So I'm going to multiply by again with 2. So 2 chloride. So I'll write here 2 chloride ions, 2 moles multiply by 6.02 into 10 raised to 23. We're going to get the answer as 2.408 into 10 raised to 24. The correct answer is C. Next, 13th question. A metal object is electroplated with copper. Okay, so we do have an object which is going to be electroplated with copper. So we already know whenever we're gonna electroplate anything, we put as a cathode. One electrode is metal object and the other electrode is copper. The electrolyte is aqueous copper to sulfate, because we need electrolyte which has to be same as we are going to copper electroplated with, which is over here in the same as copper. Which row shows the ionic half equation for the reaction at the anode? So we need to know about the anode. So you know that anode is going to first, you actually must know about the anode will be having positive or negative. So use this word as panic. So positive is anode, so it's going to be positive. So at the positive anode, what is going to be formed? And we have to show what exactly the observation would be. So first thing, copper, which is being acting as an anode, and the cathode object to be electroplated. Now you know that at anode there will be oxidation will take place. How to remember? NOx. NOx stands for anode, oxidation will take place. So oxidation means loss of electron. So copper will lose the electron and get deposited at the cathode. Okay, and copper sulfate is of blue in color and nothing will change. No copper will reduce and no color will change because the copper is actually in the solution, goes back to cathode, comes back to anode, and goes on and on. So there will be no reduction of anything. So there will be, let's see the answer first. So over here we must know that the copper is actually losing the electron. So losing the electron, I cannot see over here there is a losing of loss of electron, so I'll just cancel the option here straight away. C and D, I have got the option as their electrons have been loose. So blue color fades, no, as I told you that copper sulfate color will remain same in the solution, so blue color does not change. So the correct answer is D. 14. Which statement about electrolysis is correct? Chemical energy is converted into electrical energy, which is incorrect. Electrons flow through the electrolyte. No, actually, ions which flows through the electrolyte. Ionic compounds are broken down. Yes, it dissociates into cation and anion. Metals are formed at a positive electrode, which is also incorrect. So the correct answer is C. 15th question. The reaction between hydrogen and oxygen releases 486 kilojoule per mole of energy. So it's an exothermic reaction and we're going to have minus 436 kg per mole. The reaction, the equation is given to us. We need to check whether the equation is balanced or not. The bond energy of H is 436 kilojoule. They have already given the value for hydrogen. And that of HO, they have given us 464. So probably they are going to ask O2. Yes. What is the bond of energy O? So over here we know that energy taking in to break the bond minus the energy being formed. Okay, so over here what exactly over here we're going to do is, for hydrogen it is going to be 2 multiplied by hydrogen. For one hydrogen we have got 436, so you'll multiply with 2 because 2 is given here, plus oxygen which we do not know, we can keep it as x as well. So there are minus. Now over here the heat is been given, not given, it has been absorbed. So over here it has been absorbed and it is given out, okay, to form a product. So over here if you would see there will be minus sign. We have OH as a value of 464 and we have total 4. How? Because if you would see here, one bond and this is another bond, this is 2 bond, 2 multiplied by 2 which gives me 4, 464 equals to minus. Why minus? Because it is given as releases. It's exothermic, so we're going to write minus 436, which gives me around, once you substitute, you get the value as 498 kilojoule per mole, which is the answer as C. Next, question number 16. Which reaction pathway diagram shows the reaction that will give out the most energy? Now, the energy is given out. Again, there's going to be exothermic. And when there is an exothermic, where there will be reactant energy level will be more than the product. So let's see. From the given option, we have only A and D, where the reactant is more than the product. But over here they were asked for the most energy being released. So as you can see, there will be most lower energy. So we are going to take or mark as A. So the correct answer is A. 17. When calcium carbonate is heated strongly, a gas is given off. So when I say calcium carbonate itself is undergoes into a thermal decomposition. Okay, so let's see what word describes the change. It's a chemical change, quite obvious. Exothermic, no, it's not a exothermic, it's a thermal decomposition. Physical, no. Reduction, no, there is no reduction taking place. So the final answer is A. Powdered magnesium carbonate is added to excess dilute hydrochloric acid. The total volume of gas produced is measured over time. A graph of the results is shown. So as you can see, as the reaction proceeds with time, the volume is increasing, and as the reaction gets complete, the volume remains constant. Now over here it's shown the experiment is repeated, but the concentration of hydrochloric acid is double. Okay, so it's already the experiment is repeated, but the concentration is double. All other conditions are kept same. Okay, and we should know which one is in excess. So we know that powdered magnesium carbonate is added excess. Okay, which statement about the second experiment are correct? A final volume of gas is 360 cm cube. No, it's not actually. We can see it clearly. The reaction finishes before 90 seconds. No. Oh yes, we can say that it's actually clearing before 90 seconds. The activation energy of reaction is lower. No, because the concentration will not affect the activation energy. So the correct answer is only 2, which I can see here as D. Next question. Which statements explain why increasing the temperature changes the rate of chemical reaction? So when we talk about why increasing the temperature changes the rate of chemical reaction, so option A, it increases the activation energy. No. It increases the frequency of collision between the reacting particles. Yes, because of course in the increasing the temperature, the collision becomes more frequent. It increases the kinetic energy of the reacting particles. Yes. It increases the number of particles per unit volume. It actually doesn't relate with the per unit volume. So the correct answer is second and third, and option is given as C. So the correct answer is C. Next, 20. Hydrogen is made by reacting carbon with steam. The equation for the reaction is shown. So we have equation here. The forward reaction is endothermic. So we already know that when there is a forward reaction, it actually favors the high temperature. So which row describes the change in the pressure and the temperature that will both shift position of equilibrium to the right. So as you can see that forward reaction is endothermic because the increase in temperature favors the endothermic reaction. So the temperature needs to be increased. So over here we can see B and D is the option. Now let's check for pressure, and we want that it should shift towards the position shift towards the equilibrium to the right. So before that, for the pressure, we need to check for the mole. If you would see here, we have ratio of 1:2. You cannot take this as 1 because this is in a solid state. So gaseous state we have to take 1 and 2. Now, if the higher moles of are there in the right hand side, the system will oppose the change to go to the left side, which decrease the temperature. So over here, what are we doing is we're going to decrease the pressure. So answer for this would be decrease the pressure and increase the temperature. So the option is B. Next, which row shows the condition used for the conversion of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the contact process? So we know the conditions, which is going to be 450, which is going to be highest temperature, and we use vanadium pentoxide, and we also use pressure as 2. So the correct answer is B. 22. The equation for the reaction of magnesium with the carbon dioxide is shown. So, which statement about this reaction is correct? Magnesium is oxidized and carbon dioxide is reduced. So, here you will see that magnesium has gained the oxygen. That means it indicates that it's been oxidized, and carbon dioxide has lost the oxygen. That means it has reduced. Okay, so you can see that magnesium is oxidized and carbon dioxide is reduced. Final answer is A. Chlorine displaces bromine from aqueous potassium bromide. the ionic equation for the reaction is shown. So over here we must know about the oxidation state. In oxidation state for the oxidize and reduce, which is oxidation and reduction. So let's see the first one they have asked. Before we go with this, we must write all the details which we know so that our options becomes more easier to eliminate. So first is given as chlorine. Now if you would see here, chlorine from the reactant to product, it is coming as 0 to -1. Okay, so the chlorine is actually chlorine is what? Chlorine is actually gaining the electron. Okay, so it means it's going to reduce. So if this chlorine is getting reduced, that means bromine will be act as reducing agent, which I have written here, right? So bromine will act as a reducing agent. Talking about bromide, so as you can say, it's coming from -1 to 0, which gives me around oxidized, which is loss of electron, and eventually chlorine will act as a oxidizing agent. Okay, so let's see the option. Which statement about this reaction is correct? So bromide ions act as an oxidizing agent. No, it's actually acting as a reducing agent. Bromide ions are oxidized. Okay, yes, it has been oxidized as electrons are lost, which is correct. Let's see the other options. Chlorine acts as a reducing agent. Chlorine acts as an oxidizing agent. Chlorine is reduced. No. Yes, chlorine is reduced, but it has been gained, not lost. Next question. So the final answer is B. Next, 24. Which gas is produced when ammonium chloride is warmed with the aqueous sodium hydroxide? So when ammonium chloride is warmed, so it's going to release ammonia, which gives me the ions as ammonium. Okay, so the gas which is going to release is ammonia. Question 25. Which equation represents a solution of ethanoic acid? We know that ethanoic acid is a weak acid which will partially dissociate into ionize or ions. So we can see here, and also if it's a partially ionized, that means it's going to have reversible sign. So we can eliminate the answer directly. B and D gets eliminated directly. So we do have option of A and C, but we can see over here it's ethanoic acid. It means 2 carbon. So over here we got only 1 carbon. So again, A will get cancelled. As you can see, there are 2 carbons. So the final answer is C. Okay, within a second you can get the answer. Question number 26. 4 statements about the reaction of oxides with dilute hydrochloric acid and with aqueous sodium hydroxide are listed. So first we must know how the oxides will react with acid and also with sodium hydroxide. Okay, so the first thing we must know that if any oxides reacting with both, which is acid and base, we're gonna get amphoteric oxide. And if the oxides only react with acid, they give as basic oxide. And if the oxides react with base, they're gonna give acidic oxides. How to remember which one is acidic, which one is basic oxide? So if it's a basic oxide, that means mostly they're gonna have metals and metal belonging to group 1 and group 2. And if they're acidic oxide, mostly it's gonna be non-metals. So if you can see from the question, aluminum oxide. Now we have to think about oxides which is reacting both with acid and also with base. Okay, and which gives me amphoteric oxide. So over here from aluminum oxide, calcium oxide, CuO and SO2, the final answer is aluminum oxide, because that is the only one which gives as an amphoteric oxide, and the other one is copper oxide. So 1 and 3 is the correct answer. Calcium oxide reacts with both, no, as we can see that calcium oxide is a basic oxide, comes as a metal, calcium is a metal, so it actually doesn't react with both, but it only reacts with HCl. And sulfur dioxide is a non-metal, it does not react with either, so it's incorrect. So the final answer is 1 and 3. Sometimes they give you zinc oxide, which is also a amphoteric oxide. So the final answer is B, 1 and 3. 27. Which statement about elements in period 3 of the periodic table is correct? So we have a period 3 over here and we're going to see the element. Aluminium is a non-metal, which is incorrect. It's a metal. Argon is in a group 7 and has 8 electrons in its outer electron shell, which is correct. Magnesium is in group 2 and has 3 electrons. No. Group 2 means 2 electron. Sulfur is a metal. No, which is incorrect. So the final answer is B. Which row describes the structure of 7 element and the trend in their reactivity down the group? So we know that group 7 is a diatomic molecule, so we're going to have structure as diatomic. And if I talk about the reactivity series, if you can see fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Fluorine is the most reactive, so as we go down the group, the reactivity decreases. So the final answer is diatomic and decreases. Option B. 29. Some information about 4 elements PQRS is shown. Melting point in a degree Celsius, density in gram per cubic centimeter, and color of chloride. Which elements are transition elements? So we know that the all in transition elements, melting point, density, color also changes. So over here, if you would see, we have to select which is more in highest one, and for the color will be more darkest. So over here, if you would see P and R, okay, 7. We cannot take Q because we can see here density is decreased, so Q gets eliminated. So the correct option is P and R. Density is also increasing, and this is pink and purple. So the correct answer is A. Question number 30. Propanoic acid is a carboxylic acid. It has similar chemical properties to ethanoic acid. So we already know that propanoic acid is actually a weak acid and it's going to have a partial ionization. So let's see which statements are correct. Aqueous propanoic acid is a weaker acid than the dilute HCl, which is correct. Propanoic acid partially ionizes in aqueous solution, which is also correct. Propanoic acid reacts with ethanol to form propyl ethanoate. No. If you would see here, when propanoic acid reacts with ethanol, so ethanol will turn to YL, so it's gonna give us ethyl. So instead of propyl, we're gonna have ethyl, and propanoic will turn to ethanoate. So the correct answer is ethyl, not the propyl ethanoate. So the correct answer is 1 and 2. 31. Iron rust in the presence of oxygen and water. Which statements about the rusting of iron are correct? So, anhydrous iron 2 oxide is produced. No, we get iron 3 oxide. Iron rust more quickly when attached to a piece of zinc. No, it's actually not, because zinc will act as a protection method. It's a barrier method. Coating the iron with plastic prevents the iron from rusting, which is correct. Iron loses electrons when it rusts, which is also correct. So the correct answer is 3 and 4. 32. An iron nail is added to aqueous copper to sulfate, and a different iron nail is added to aqueous magnesium sulfate. The results are shown, the experiment and the result. Over here, we have seen iron nail in aqueous copper 2 sulfate. So there's an iron nail, and which is in the aqueous copper 2 sulfate. Nail is coated with a brown solid. Iron nail in the aqueous magnesium sulfate. The result is no reaction. So we need to talk about why there is no reaction and why it is turned into brown solid. So which statement is correct? So as you can see, before we go with the option, we must know and understand what exactly they have given. So iron reacting with copper sulfate as mentioned. So as you know that iron is more reactive than copper, so it's going to have more reactivity and it can displace easily, and which gives us copper as a brown solid. Okay. When I talk about iron plus magnesium sulfate, so there will be no reaction because magnesium is actually greater than iron. So there will be no reaction which will be taking place. Iron is less reactive than magnesium basically. So there will be no reaction taking place. Let's see for the option. Copper atoms are oxidized more easily. No. Copper atoms are reduced? No. Iron atoms are oxidized more easily than copper atom, which is correct because iron is more reactive than the copper. So if it's more reactive, it will lose electron more easily. So the correct option is C. Which pollutant leads to the deoxygenation of water in ponds and lakes? So we know that the fertilizers contain nitrates and phosphates is the main pollutant. Okay. Which statement identifies a sample of water as pure? So it melts at room temperature. No, we cannot identify with this one. It turns anhydrous copper to sulfate blue. No. It turns hydrated copper to chloride from blue to pink, which is also incorrect. So the correct answer is it boils at 100°C. Question 35. Oxides of nitrogen are produced by car engines. In a catalytic converter, oxides of nitrogen are removed by reacting them with compound X. So we must know that compound X is nothing but carbon monoxide, which actually reduces the toxic fumes from the nitrogen dioxide, and it converts into a advantageous gases, which is nitrogen, and which is more stable in the environment. So we can see from the row describes the type of reaction oxides of nitrogen undergo and identifies the compound X. So this is a type of reaction is reduction, because as you can see over here is oxygen is getting removed, and this will be a reduction. So where your oxidation will get eliminated easily. So the final answer we can get is C and D, but still we need to check for compound X. As I told you, it's carbon monoxide. So the correct answer is D. 36. What is a disadvantage of producing ethanol using the catalytic addition of steam to ethene? So when we talk about the catalytic addition of steam to ethene, we talk about the crude oil over here, and we don't talk about the disadvantage. The energy cost is low, which is advantage is 1. The process is continuous, which is also advantage. The process uses a non-renewable, which is a crude oil which we are using, which is a disadvantage. So correct answer is C. Ethanol is pure, which is also advantage 1. Which statement about the polymer PET is correct? Now over here we must know that this is a polyester and this undergoes into a condensation. So over here if you would see, it can be broken down into its monomer and repolymerized, which is correct. It is an addition polymer, as I mentioned, it's a condensation. It's a polyamide, no, it's a polyester. It is made from amino acid monomers, no, it is made from acid and alcohol. 38. The formulae of 5 compounds are listed. Which compounds are in the same homologous series? Homologous series means same functional group. So as you can see, second, third and fifth shows the alcohol functional group. So we can say 2, 3, 5 is the correct answer. 39. Propane reacts with chlorine. Which statements about the reaction is correct? This is the alkane group, alkane reacting with chlorine. So ultraviolet light is used to provide deactivation energy, which is correct. Propane undergoes addition reaction. No, it doesn't actually, because addition reaction comes when we have alkene group. One of the product is CH3CH2Cl. No, it's actually not. It's going to be, this is methane, ethane. This is going to be ethane, not propane. One of the product is HCl, which is also correct. So the correct answer is 1 and 4. Which statement about chromatography is correct? So it is not possible for two different substances to have the same RF value. No, which is incorrect. It is possible. It is only possible to use chromatography on substances which have a color. No, we do use a colorless compound such as ammonia and sugar compounds, and we also use locating agent to identify the color spots. It is possible to use chromatography on colorless substance using a locating agent, which we have already mentioned. So the answer is C. Let's check for the RF. D1, the RF value of substance, the distance traveled by a solvent divided by the distance traveled by the substance. No, it's incorrect, because it's going to be the distance traveled by the solvent. No, it's substance and distance traveled by the solvent. So the correct answer is C. So we are done with the paper. So if you want more updates based on the past papers, so kindly like, share, and subscribe.